first, I guess they looked through everything to say, yes, this is something you should pursue, solicitor. And so they went to our solicitor, who was at that time Donnie Myers, and they said, Mr. Myers, we don't understand. We're seeing all these 17, 18, 19-year-olds that have adult charges. And we look and it says something about when they were 14 or when they were 15, why didn't somebody help them when they were 13, 14? Why? And so our solicitor, now this is in 82, he said, you find a program and I'll back it. Now, before Google, before computers, before cell phones, before laptops, they just got on the phone. They found this program in Florida. They called the people in Florida. It was called Youth Arbitration. Two people went down there. They invited the program director up here, and they went back to Solicitor Myers and said, we found it. It's called Arbitration. It uses community volunteers. It's got a great success rate. They deal with first-time offenders, and half of the grand jury said, we will be the first volunteers. Yeah. And so, yeah, he was like, wow, okay, I guess I'll have to hire somebody. So just through his office, he hired a woman by the name of Susan Alford.
Oh, you know Miss Alford.
Yes, I do.
She's now the director of Department of Juvenile Justice. Of Department of Social Services.
She is the head of Department of Social Service. She wrote the grant in 1983. We actually have a copy of it in our manual. It's the funkiest looking grant. It doesn't look anything like grants nowadays. But she looked at the statistics of DJJ. She was at DJJ, and I guess somebody recommended her for the job. That's 1983. So if you ever meet her, say, I know you wrote that grant for juvenile arbitration. And so she was there for about not quite 2 years.
Okay.
She trained half the grand jury. She trained about 35 to 40 volunteers. Then she left, and she hired Jenny Barr. I don't know if you ever heard Jenny Barr. And Jenny Barr took on for 7.5 years, ran arbitration. And then Jenny went to, I think, at that time it was Human Service Associates, a therapeutic foster care agency, HSA, yeah, and moved to Atlanta and then to Raleigh. And then, so Jenny, I was a volunteer. I was an arbitrator, and I went through arbitration training in 1985. And it was the second year of the program. I was a DSS CPS worker at Lexington County. So see, when you were sitting there, I was like, well, so I had left DSS and went to the foster care review board. So I was actually there. I know that's terrible, but sorry. Good. They're the agency that monitors DSS.
Right.
So not a lot of DSS doesn't like the foster care review board, but it was a good opportunity. So while I was at DSS and then at the foster care review board, I handled arbitration cases.
Right. And
I can tell you, as much work as I did at DSS and for the foster care review board, the most rewarding work I ever did was with juvenile arbitration. That I could make a difference. You spend 6 months on one case, take children out of their home, give children back to a family that you know isn't probably quite ready, but they need a family, and that foster care is no place for a child. I'm just going to tell you that. The foster care is no place. A child needs whatever home they have, they want to go back to it. It doesn't matter if it's a dinky trailer with holes in it, they want to go back to their home. And we really do a disservice when we put them in this nice fancy house, and then 8 months later we put them back in that dinky trailer. And so that's when I'll get off my platform. But so I was excited when Miss Alford got that position at DSS, because I hadn't seen her in a couple of years, and I know she's been at DJJ and back and forth. But there's so much that you can do just in that hour hearing, and then you follow that youngster for 90 days. You will be amazed. And I know that Weta has stories here, but I can tell you just 2 stories out of the blue where Mr. Cleckley, he's one of our volunteers, he is 82 now. He started when he was like 75, became an arbitrator, and he was arbitrating for about 3 or 4 years. He went to a little restaurant called Grecian Gardens in West Columbia, and he actually had been an arbitrator for about 5 years. 5 years, and he was sitting there, and he said, the waiter came up to him and said, and he said, yes, I am. And he said, you were my arbitrator 5 years.
Wow.
And Thomas was like, well, you can't remember everybody's name. Yeah. You just tell yourself right now, you're not. And he said, well, look at you. Shake my hand. Look at you. You're a waiter here in this restaurant. He said, Mr. Clayton, I work at UPS. I graduated from Midlands Tech. This is a night job I had. Thank you for putting me on the right path.
Wow.
Mr. Clinton started crying. He said, Kathryn, I started coming. They had to move that down. He was 81. He said, I started crying right there in the restaurant. And he said, you know, later he said goodbye to me. He remembered his name 5 years later. He, Mr. Clinton couldn't remember the child's name, but that child remembered his name.
Wow.
The first week I was there at arbitration, I got a letter. Jenny Barr had been the director for 7 years, but I got a letter to the director of arbitration. I just want you to know that my son shoplifted when he was 13. He was just accepted into the governor's school. He's 16 years old. I wanted to write and tell the arbitrator that he did turn out okay, but I couldn't remember the arbitrator's name. I mean, this was a letter, I still have it. But so I asked my son, do you remember that arbitrator? Before I got the words out of my mouth, he said, Mr. Don Titus. 3 years later. She said, so that made me write the letter even more. I just want you to please tell Mr. Titus, wherever he is, my son is at the governor's school. Last
So in
one,
other words, the child
remembers your name. You might not remember that child's name. Well, the last story I tell, lady was sitting there before Ray Charles passed away. He did a concert in Columbia. They called it the Three Rivers concert, where the Congaree and the Broad River and the, what's the other river? Saluda. Thank you. Come together, and they always have a big concert. Well, this has probably been 10 or 15 years ago. And Liv Foster, we have a little arbitrator. She had a little blanket out there, and she's sitting there. She's waiting for Ray Charles to come out. And she said, this young man came up to her and said, Miss Foster, I think you were my arbitrator. And she looked at him, she said, son, I've been in the school system, I've worked, you know, in my neighborhood. I'm so sorry, I don't remember your name. And he said, I'm so-and-so. She said, oh my goodness, I'm so delighted you remembered my name. He said, my wife and child join you on your blanket. Oh, she cried. She cried. He, again, had finished college. He was 27 years old. Wow. He met her when he was like 15, 14 or 15.
And he remembered?
And he remembered her and what she looked like. Wow. And you're only going to spend an hour with this kid. You are going to spend an hour. And now you're going to follow up for 3 months, and you're going to be calling, and did you get that essay in? Did you go on your tour? Did you do your community service work? I'm so proud of you. What Weta was saying, what Solicitor was saying, that positive is what they never hear at home. And it doesn't matter if they're in that dinky trailer. It doesn't matter. If you call them once a week and say, hey, wow, I saw that you finished your community service work. That was great. That was wonderful. They will remember your name. They'll remember your name. So first I want to say thank you for doing what you're doing. What I usually do at the end of my talk is make everybody go around and tell us when they got in trouble as a teenager.
Oh, wow.
But I don't know. We can think about that later tonight. And we all tell our stories, but and that's probably why I'm where I am too, because I know that as bad as you get in high school, you can always change. It's never too late to change in middle school or high school or even college. It's never too late to change. And so I'll show you a poster about that real quick.
Oh, sure.
Please. Because this is, well, I've got a couple of posters. And then we'll watch the video. It's just one's 5 minutes and one's 7 minutes.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, do this real quick. This was a young man.
I bet these have made the trick.
These have. I'll show you this one first, actually. Don't shoplift. The wrong path and the right path. And that's what the arbitrator said. I want you to talk about shoplifting and what would happen if you go to jail or what would happen if you didn't go to jail. So this young man put, shoplifting is a terrible thing to do. The decision of shoplifting can lead you to prison or jail, which is a place that no one wants to be. I will show you what will happen if you don't shoplift versus you taking something that doesn't belong to you. So if you go on the good path, you will be surrounded by your family. They're good people that love and care for you. You can see them all the time at any place. If you shoplift, you'll end up in jail. It's a terrible place. It's very violent and dangerous. I mean, and so he goes, you know, this is what you're going to eat in jail. But you could be having, you know, your home with your family. You could attend college. You could play sports. You could pursue your dreams. My dream is to make it to the MBA one day after college. I'm very focused and dedicated on achieving that. prison is very violent. There are fights every day. This is what could happen to you. This came in this week.
This week?
Oh, it just came in. It just came in this week.
Most plays with them now. So
yeah.
Well, I thought it had to be recent too.
You can have your dream home,
Yeah.
or you can be in prison.
In prison.
Talking to your family, that's
Yeah.
a visitation in prison.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, so this kid forgets it.
Yeah, he gets it, and he understands it.
He gets it.
Yeah, I love it.
I should have blocked out that name right there.
And so, these are ideas about sanctions that,
Yeah, you
down
could have
there.
them do, now this is the web of shoplifting. And this one arbitrator, she has everybody do a web of either shoplifting or whatever it is.
Oh my goodness.
How it affects everybody. So I'm trying to
okay, that's cool. I'll hold it
so
up.
you can
Yeah.
see it. From employees stealing from Walmart made employees lose money. See how Walmart was affected. The security guard made him chase us. It was not good. Her daddy disappointed him, messed up his work schedule.
Oh, that's a big one, because they have to come to
Arbitration, and then they might have to take somebody to community service, maybe a jail tour. The customers, cutting into their budget for price increases. You know, we tell kids, when you shoplift, even if Walmart just raised everything 1 cent, just 1 cent, but they lose like $1 billion a year in South Carolina. Walmart does.
Wow.
Yeah. So they're gonna. So if they increase the price, who does that hurt? Everybody. You, me. I mean, I tell, and arbitrators will tell kids that hurts me. That hurts your mama, your grandmother. The arbitration lady had to.
What did arbitration lady have to
had
do?
to waste her time on had to waste her time on my childish actions. I
Yeah.
remember that. Friends and family let them down and all disappointed in me. Officer Myers, that was the police officer, actually, his name was Myers, wasted your time on stupid action made by me. I really am sorry to everyone I've hurt, and I've really learned from my mistake. Now, the first spider web she did was that.
Oh, okay, wrong side, mess up,
Yeah,
mess up.
wrong side, mess up. So she
What a
wanted
kid
to,
thing.
but kids can do a lot of things, and this is how she explained it. I think this arbitrator actually has it explained on a little piece of paper. Draw a spider web.
Oh, she has she has her
Yes.
certain sanctions she likes to do.
Yes, so this is one, so we get a lot of these, but this is probably the
web.
well, the web, there's two that are really good.
I
This
like
was
that. I've
The
not
harmful
seen that.
effects of huffing and puffing.
Oh.
Aromatic hydrocarbons, kids huff big lighters and Ready Whip, Cool Whip.
We haven't had much of that
Really?
lately.
It goes in
Y'all-
spurts.
Yeah, it goes in spurts. We haven't had much
Yeah.
lately.
But sometimes the little gas stations will tell you kids will come in and buy like 20 big lighters at a time, and that should
Go on.
yeah, they should call the police at that point, or say something to the kid. But we had a kid that in West Columbia was huffing in a tree house with other kids. Well, it freezes your lungs, and then he fell out and fell on his head and died. So we had kind of a spike, but we haven't seen it recently. But he really did a good job on how inhalant abuse can lead to wasting muscle strength, reducing bone marrow, benzene found in gasoline can cause leukemia. He just did a really good job.
Yeah.
But this is the best one. This old. This is old.
This is the old. Oh, you had it laminated.
Oh,
I see.
laminated. This was a little youngster that really did some damage to a
That looks
church.
like my handwriting. Sure wasn't good.
Oh, yeah. Glenwood.
Where were you? Where were you 15 years ago?
Yeah, it was.
Too old to be doing that.
A long time ago. And him and another kid, you know how sometimes churches have a basement, it was a little church, and that's where their daycare is. Well, him and this other kid, and the other kid had a prior record, so he couldn't go through arbitration. But this little youngster was like 12 or 13. They poured glue on the floor, they marked on the walls, they they did thousands of dollars of damage to this room.
How old were they? Again?
12 and 14. Or maybe 13 and 14, but the 14-year-old, so he was already hanging around somebody that had a prior record. And sometimes you're going to get a case where you're not going to get all the kids. You'll just get the one that doesn't have the prior record. And what we tell arbitrators to tell parents, because they're going to say, well, what happened to Billy Joe? He was involved too. Well, because of confidentiality, I can't say anything, but we only take first-time offenders.
Right.
Most parents get that, like, who is my child hanging around?
Right.
Somebody that's already been in trouble. Not
Right.
that you want to label that other youngster, but you need to watch your child, So this little kid, the arbitrator told him to make a poster, and the arbitrator called me and said, no, I don't know how bright he is, but Mom said she'd help him. So he made this poster, rules to go by for life, because it could mean life.
Oh, my goodness.
Think before you do. If something is not yours, don't take it. Stay away from a place where you're not supposed to be. Do not go in a place if you don't belong there. His spelling is atrocious. When someone calls you, make sure, and say, "Oh, make sure you can hear." So what do you think he meant by that? When someone calls you, make sure you can hear them.
Somebody must have been saying, "Hey, where are you?"
Oh, come home, Johnny, you know, 2 blocks down. Hey, come on home.
Oh,
You
that's
know.
hilarious.
Do not lie when you get caught doing bad. Do not blame someone or blame someone. Do not blame someone for your bad. Listen or listen, you know, when your teacher is talking to the class. I think his mother helped him with that one.
Yeah.
When someone tries to get you to do something bad, say no. If you go by my rules and stay, you will stay out of trouble. Well, I just loved it.
I love it.
I loved it. I said, I'm gonna laminate it.
Yeah.
He was 13. 5 years later, Grandma comes to my office and says, I need to expunge his record. I've been helping take care of him.
We'll talk about all that later.
Yeah, he needed to, he couldn't finish high school. He had to go to Will Lou Gray Opportunity School. And that's a high school that's, you live on campus. It's by the Columbia Airport. She said, but he finished there and he's going into the service, and I want to get this expunged. And back then it was $5.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. So I said, well, tell him I use his poster, and I showed her. I even had a copy of it. I said, give him it, because this has been 5 years. This is when he was 13. And I said, tell him I use it for training all the time. And she said, that's great. 5 years later, 15, 20, 22, 23, I was up here in York doing just this at that other office, you know, little office on Cherry.
Yeah.
I was up there, and this woman was sitting there, and Lucy said, Kathryn, this woman wanted to come tonight. She's not going to go through arbitration training. She thought about it, but she saw that you were going to speak, and she came. It was his mother.
What? They had moved to York County?
And she brought me.
I didn't even know that story. No.
Yay.
Oh
my
No way.
Yeah, wait. But I love even the back life rules to follow. Just think. Think before you do. It might get you somewhere.
Oh my
Somewhere.
You know.
And look at it.
And she brought me those.
Oh, that's so sweet.
been-
And so they moved up here.
That's been 8 years.
Hey, at least
So
she's
I don't
been
know
gone
where
for a
they are.
while.
Yeah. She said, I want you to put this with that poster.
Don't you know that meant a lot to him to know that you still use the poster?
I use that poster. I was like,
This is the last
27 years. Well, not 27. I was probably there. I've probably used it at least for 20 years.
Wow.
You know, so
That's
I'm so glad I
amazing.
kept it. But so the point is,
Yeah.
you never know who you're going to have in that arbitration here, and sometimes kids are not going to thank you. They're going to not like you because you're kind of like a probation officer. You know, you're going to have to be a little tough sometimes. But just know in your heart, you keep these stories in your heart. So whatever you do, you know that you've made a difference in that life. Do you feel that way, Judy?
I do. I want to add just one thing. Is I had a hearing this summer, and the youngster I had, the whole hearing, I just thought he hates me. Because he just sat there and frowned at me the whole time, and we went through everything, and I always give him my cell phone number because I make them cook dinner, and they've got to send me a picture of their dinner that they cook. That
For
was
their
another
family
arbitration.
or something?
Yeah, another arbitrator
Yes.
came up with that, and I make them cook dinner, and they can't have the TV on, they've got to talk and write me a paper about what they talked about. But I was away, I had gone on vacation, and it was a couple of weeks later, because I really thought this kid was going to fail, he wasn't going to do anything. And he sent me a text and said, where are you? And he texts, after that, we would text every day. How's it going? What are you doing? And I thought, here this kid hated me
Oh my goodness.
in that hearing, but he needed somebody to talk to.
Yeah.
And so we texted, I texted to the last day, he finally, we had to walk, he was when we walked to the 90 days.
Yeah.
We extended him a little bit, but he finished.
Yeah.
But
Wow.
we
And you said would it be like
every single
encouragement that you, like, how's it going?
Right,
You know?
I'm so proud of you,
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
doing great, hang in there, and he just needed somebody in his life, because things at home weren't so good, but it was so weird, because I thought, hates me.
Yeah. Evidently, he
And
needed
they
to.
will, and you know, you don't wanna, that's the fine line too. You're not their best friend when they come in there.
Yeah.
You are like